We all should have the EPDs for each one of our products, because that's the only way to be strict with the LCA, and that's the only way to have true data and to compare different products and choose which one is better for my goals towards sustainability.
Welcome to the Urbanista, where we discuss the water management challenges of Nordic cities. From safe drinking water distribution and stormwater collection to building sustainable urban living environments. Here is your host, Delphine Vassallo.
Hey, welcome back, Urbanistas. There's no doubt about how important sustainability has become in the construction industry in recent times. Particularly in the Nordics, we are seeing that many initiatives in favor of building houses, offices, and public infrastructure with a low carbon footprint, or a lower carbon footprint, should I say, because the requirements are getting tough, are getting more strict, to the point that many projects, whether public or private, overall for public tendering processes, it's become mandatory to present a proof of the carbon footprint reduction of the products or materials that will be used in the project. And that proof, or the proof that is becoming the default standard in many cases, is the Environmental Product Declaration, or EPD, so-called EPD. But how exactly all these EPDs are issued? How should you actually read or interpret the information that is inside of these EPDs? And if a product has an EPD, does it mean that it is sustainable or not? So to answer this and many more things, today we have reached out to one of our key experts in Uponor to talk about EPDs and many more. So who are you and what do you do?
Hi, good morning, Delphine. My name is Judith Masip. I'm an electronical engineer. I live in Barcelona, and I'm the sustainability responsible for Uponor Iberia.
Thank you, Judith, for joining us today from sunny Spain. Is it really sunny today?
Yes, it is.
Okay, we are recording this in June. I guess, it should be. Otherwise, we would have been disappointed. Here in Uponor headquarters in Finland, it's quite sunny and quite hot. It's like 27 degrees, which, hey, by Nordic standards,
this is
really hot. This is really hot already. But yeah. So, Judith, let's just start from what are the EPDs? Like this document that is issued. So what are they exactly, and which information can we find inside of this document?
As you said before, EPDs are environmental product declarations. There is a document where you can find any environmental performance, any indicator of environmental performance from the product or the service that you're studying. They are based on LCA, which is the life cycle assessment. So you're going to find that information about the impact that this product has in the resources, in the earth resources like water, energy, etc. You will find that information for the whole life of the product, from the beginning, which is the extraction of the material, the transport, the manufacturing, the transport, and then the end of life. You asked about the information that we can find in the EPD. You can find general information like the description, the manufacturer, the place where it's manufactured, the technical information, that kind of general information. But then you have the specific information about the LCA, the life cycle assessment, with all the indicators for each step of the life cycle assessment. For example, for the extraction of the materials or for the transport, you can find all the indicators and information like the primary energy use, even if it's renewable or non-renewable, if there were any fuels used for that product, if there were any dangerous materials used for the manufacturing of the product, all the compounds and the materials that are used. And then you can find the specific environmental indicators as the GWP, which is the global warming potential. And that is that allows us to compare different products about the impact that they have on the gases that they are emitting into the atmosphere. You can also find information about the impact, for example, on the fresh water, the water deprivation. You can know if that product is impacting more or no, a lot or no, into the water resources that we have. The same with, for example, acidification potential. It will give you information if the product has any compounds that are precursors of acid rain. So all that information can be found in an EPD.
So you mentioned the process. We start from there. The life cycle assessment, which is from the very beginning where the raw material of any given product will born or will come. Is this really the whole process until the product is installed or used in whatever building or whatever installation it is? So is this the span of it, or what about after? I mean, the actual life of that product before it's, well, end of life, before it is disposed or recycled, hopefully. So the LCA is taking care or is looking at that far?
It depends on the type of EPD that you are doing, because you can do certain different types of LCA, and you can have a cradle to gate, which is the minimum LCA that you can do to publish an EPD. And it just covers the A1 to A3, which is extraction of material, transport, and manufacturing. So that will be the minimum information towards life cycle assessment that you can find in an EPD. Then you have the next one, which is cradle to cradle, and to the last one, it add C1 and C2 and D, which is the end of life and the benefits after the project, which are related to recycling, etc. And then you have the full life cycle assessment approach, which is cradle to grave, which is the beginning to the end of life. So that's the whole PD. So it will depend, answering your question, it will depend the information of each steps of LCA on what kind of EPD you are going to analyze. If it's cradle to gate, or cradle to grave.
But there are typically different, let's call them, types of EPDs. So if that the document that I am presented, I don't know if I am planning, if I'm a planner, I'm starting to collect all these documents to validate what the materials that I'm putting in my project. So is there a specific type of EPD that I should request, the cradle to gate, cradle to cradle? So how me as a planner, how do I choose, or how do I know which is the right EPD that I should choose or ask for?
It depends on the what is your goal towards that EPD. Sometimes you only need to fulfill a requirement from a green scheme like LEED, which I would like to talk deeper then, but later. But if you are just wanting to fulfill that requirement, they only ask about having the EPD. They give you point only for having the EPD, for example, in one credit. So in that sense, you doesn't care what kind of EPD as soon as you have the EPD. So if you have any EPD, even if it's credit to gate, blah, 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 it's going to be useful for you. But then if you are an engineer or an architect that you are doing the life cycle assessment of the whole building, and you want to have the life cycle assessment from a beginning to end with all the materials that are installed in that building, maybe for you will be more interesting to have a cradle to grave LCA. The traditional or maybe the EPDs that we are going to find probably the most are the cradle to cradle, the middle ones.
The middle ones, exactly.
Yeah.
So because then what we have seen is, of course, the EPD is a third-party verified document. It's not that the manufacturer or the company that is producing the material is issuing. That's the point, that is verified by a checked and verified by a third party. And but we have seen that there are many formats or types, because there are many private companies doing this. And at some point, if the planner receives EPDs, right? Because I am choosing between these two types of materials to put into my project, and I receive two EPDs, but they are not issued by the same company, validator. And
Yes.
like, okay, how do I read this? Does this match with this other thing, or they are not directly comparable? We have here that's kind
There
of a
are
struggle.
many things that you need to take in account. The thing about the LCA, grade to grade, this is one thing. But then you also need to see if you are having our EPD that is single done. That means one EPD for one manufacturer and one product. Or you can have a group EPD, which is similar products from the same manufacturer. Or you can have an industry average EPD, where many companies has given the data to the association and they do the EPD of an average data for a product. So that will be another thing to take in account when doing the comparisons. But I need to explain a little bit which is the process of doing an EPD to answer that.
Yes, please.
When doing an EPD, first of all, you need to do a little bit of strategy and think, first of all, what kind of LCA, what kind of EPD regarding single EPD, group EPD, etc. And then you need to choose, as you said, a program operator. Nowadays, there are 50 in the world. It's a lot of people. There are ones that are more international and commonly known than others that are more locally or for the countries, no? But you need to choose the program. And then when choosing the program, you need to find if there is a PCR into that program. A PCR is the rules that are applied when you are doing the product EPD. So if you are doing, for example, in Uponor, we are doing an EPD of a pipe, a PEX pipe, we need to know if that PEX pipe has rules which are going to tell us how we need to do that EPD. If you have a PCR, you take that and you just follow the rules and do the EPD. If not, you need to create that. And so that's part of the strategy. When choosing the PCR, the program operator, the kind of EPD, then you need to take the data. We need 1 year of data to do the life cycle assessment and all the study. Then you put all the data into these programs and they give you the life cycle assessment information. We need to fulfill the report, the type of report that the program operator is asking us. And then we need to send that to a verifier. The verifier will say that if we have followed the rules correctly or not. And when that's done and the verifier give us the okay, this is a process about they are going to ask you questions and you need to answer. And then we are ready to publish and register the EPD. So with that said, what we need to do when comparing different EPDs. First of all, be sure that we are comparing EPDs that are done with same kind of EPDs, like single EPDs to single EPDs. We can only compare EPDs that from products that only differ in 1% of material, because if we are comparing two pipes, one plastic pipe and one metal pipe, that it has not really sense to do that. And then you need to be sure that the PCRs that are used, if aren't the same, because if there is different program operators, will not be the same. We need to look into the rules and the assumptions that are done. I will recommend to the ones that reading EPDs and comparing to take the EPD and go to the assumption the assumption part, where they will find, for example, I will give you an example of the assumptions. If we are two manufacturers that are working with PEX pipe, for example, and I have the factory in Germany and you have the factory in France, but we both send the PEX pipe to all the European countries. So what is the amount of kilometers that we should put in the EPD? That is an assumption. So you need to look there and look what is the assumption that each one of the manufacturers have done. Maybe I've done the average of the, I don't know, all the customers that I have in Europe, which distance they are from the manufacturing place, and then I've done the average. Maybe the other has it done other way. So that's I will recommend to look the type of EPD, type of product, they need to be very similar, and then the assumptions.
Right. So there's quite a lot of things that you had to prepare before actually jumping into actually which type of EPD I'm going to request for my project. And once you have it like there in front of you, you have mentioned before these GWP indicators. And can you elaborate on that? Because actually one of the things that we are realizing with many customers is, yes, here is the EPD, and maybe kind of zoom in immediately to the number of the carbon footprint reduction. At some point, there's like, okay, it's kind of one of the key topics, yes, but they like
It's not the only one.
zoom in
Yeah.
immediately to that one, and admittedly, some products that do have an EPD, but given that what you explained, the life cycle assessment, etc., the result is that product that does have an EPD, the carbon footprint reduction says 0. Because it is what it is. I mean, it's not wrong. It is what it is. It's just certified that it's 0.
Yes.
So then it's like, okay, what's the point of the EPD? Many people say, okay, if you zoom in only to the carbon footprint, may not be the best. Which other items or indicators or like this GWP, or which other indicators you should pay attention specifically in the EPD?
I think that all of them. For me, it's important the raw material. If you can find in a EPD if there is a raw material that is virgin, that it has been extracted, so it diminishes the resources of the earth, or if you are using secondary materials or recycled materials from other industries. So, but if you're looking into that and that's like this, you are going to have a lower footprint. So that has an impact in the footprint. But also the water footprint is super interesting. Maybe a product has a better carbon footprint, but worse water footprint. I'm not the one to say which one of them is more important. It will depend on the goal that you are having when you are the project managers or the green schemes managers. They need to do that thinking. So they need to know which is the goal that they are going to pursue, and if they need to lower the carbon footprint, they are going to look on that. But if they have a problem with water footprint, maybe they are going to look more on that indicator.
Because actually you are mentioning, if I catch it correctly, you are mentioning now the how to say, the complementary, these assessment schemes that you may want, that your building or your project has it. So how can these EPDs be used in the building rating or in these assessment schemes, whether it's LEED or BREEAM, or can you elaborate more about that?
Yes. For example, I will talk more about LEED and BREEAM, which are the ones I know better. LEED gives you, as I said before, LEED gives you credits only for having EPDs. So they ask you in your project to have 20 products permanently installed with EPDs from at least 5 different manufacturers. So that directly gives you points, not knowing if the EPDs are good or bad, the product is better, just having the EPDs, because they give you they are rewarding the transparency. First step of sustainability is having data and being transparent with the data. Then we can work if that data is good, is bad, or it needs some improvement. So let's give you points for that. But then they have a credit with also, they give you points if you're using materials that are low in carbon footprint. So you can have the points for having the EPD, and then if that EPD is good, if that product is better than other ones and is giving a lower carbon footprint, they will give you points for that also. For example, in BREEAM, it's similar. They give you points for having the EPDs. In the BREEAM case, they give you more points if the product EPD is a single one. That one is one product, one manufacturer. Than if you are presenting a industry average EPD. So for BREEAM, they are giving you more points. And other certificates like HQE, DGNB, the other ones, in Spain we have Verde, etc. The other ones, they all give you points for the EPDs. In general, they give you points for having EPDs, and then if you have materials that are improved in terms of carbon footprint, they give you some more points for that. For example, the importance of that green schemes, they are not mandatory, they are voluntary, so companies are doing because they have a commitment with sustainability or for other reasons. But in Spain, when a build-to-rent building is done, the investors make mandatory, so if the constructor wants that the investor puts their money in it, they make mandatory to having BREEAM certificate here in Spain. So that's the reason, because this is so important.
Actually, now you are also touching the topic of the EPDs that are one product, one manufacturer, the EPDs that have multiple products. Clearly, for the assessment schemes, well, the ones that are one give you more points. They are more valued. But these other type of EPDs that are multiple or is a family of products, or there's, so how do you see them? I mean, I don't want to say how valid they are, because of course they are valid. That's why they are outside there. But how useful they are, like me as a planner, do I get a one product, one manufacturer EPD versus this common or collective, how to say it, multiple product EPD? So does that really help the planner to calculate?
Having a group EPD, that's my personal opinion. Having a group EPD is just to fulfill the requirement. Like if someone is asking you for the EPD for a material, is to fulfill the requirement and to fulfill the voids that we have nowadays, because the problem is that there are not many manufacturers in the installations world that have EPDs. In Uponor, we are not the only ones, but there is no many others in the HVAC or in the installations world, no? So the problem that are facing architects when doing the LCA of a whole of a building is that they are not finding the data. So having the EPDs on the industry average, if there is no other option, that's enough to go forward. But for me, that's a bad thing. We all should have the EPDs for each one of our products, because that's the only way to be strict with the LCA, and that's the only way to have true data and to compare different products and choose which one is better for my goals towards sustainability. So my opinion is that single EPDs are the correct ones, are the ones that we need.
And as you say, so that's why manufacturers, I mean, not just because we are in the construction industry, so but all kind of industrial manufacturers should have or must have their EPDs, as you said, for each one of their products. Yes, it's a long process. Yes, it doesn't come overnight, but I guess it's for the benefit of the industry at large. We are seeing really a strong drive in the Nordic countries, where whether it's for a private project or even more overall for any public tendering, if you don't present the EPD up front, you are actually, they don't even count on you. They don't even consider you for the project. So the ticket to enter, just to offer the bid, is actually having the EPD. Whatever the EPD says, as I say, sometimes it's like EPD says 0 carbon free or not so good, but you have it. So it's like now one of the prerequisites. That is happening a lot nowadays in the Nordics. I don't know if you have in the rest of Europe and in Spain. So how mandatory, how strict the investors are becoming.
I mean, in terms of government, there is no requirement nowadays. It's more, it relates into the cities' councils. I know that in Nordics you are more advanced in that aspect. I know that Oslo asks EPDs on the tendering process. And for example, in Southern Europe, we have France. France is starting to require an LCA for a building to obtain construction certificates. So that's the first step. They are not asking EPDs, but they are asking LCA. So the project managers will need EPDs to do that LCA. And what I said, this is not a mandatory thing here, but it will arrive. In Nordics is arriving. As you said, first step is having the EPD, first of all. But then next step will be that EPDs meet certain criteria. The thing is relying more on the public councils on the cities, and you have, for example, in Nordics, Oslo, or you have great initiatives in tendering about requesting EPDs. But in South, for example, in France, they have this requirement to have the certain certifications, construction certifications, and they ask you to do the life cycle assessment. So they are not directly asking for EPDs, but they are asking to life cycle assessment, which make mandatory that you need EPD to do that in order to have the data. And in Spain, for example, we have Barcelona, Madrid, the cities, having some request into the public construction. So they put some requirements, not about EPDs. They are asking, for example, for materials with certain amount of certain percentage of recycled material into it, or to put some materials with carbon footprint. They are not mandatory requirements. They are these kind of requirements that give you extra points to take to win the project, or to win that, no? And what I think is that for the public administration is great, because EPDs are the way that they have to verify that the product that you are giving to them into the project is going to fulfill the requirements that they are setting. And also is helping them to compare in between two products or two projects and give more credits, or give a prize, or just to win the project that for that material that is better, or that project that has materials that are better. So that's not mandatory, 100%. A European Commission doesn't have regulation now, but there are upcoming regulations that surely will change that. For example, you have the European Circular Economy Action Plan, you have the EU Product Environmental Footprint, we have levels, that is this framework, a European framework for sustainability building, trying to not rely only on the private green schemes like LEED or BREEAM. We are going to have this in EU. And life cycle assessment, as I said, in France, in Sweden also, is going to, nowadays is linked to green schemes, but it's going to be mandatory. Sooner or later, we are going to face that requirements.
So much better, of course, if our colleagues planners start to take this, I mean, not that they don't take it seriously, but I mean, to really, this is a thing that needs to be considered like in every single project, whether it's officially requested or not. It's also, it will be beneficial. So if we try to summarize what I'm getting out of our conversation today, so learn which types of EPDs you can get, cradle to gate, cradle to cradle, cradle to grave, and what's included in each one of them. Consider if you are having a single product EPD or a multiple product EPD. Does that really fulfills what you are the needs of or the requirements of your project? Which are the key indicators, whether are the GWP indicators? What exactly you should be reading or looking into those EPDs? Is it carbon footprint really what you are looking after? Is it water footprint? And considering all those, and as you mentioned, there's no one size fits all, depending what are the objectives and what are you what your project is about. You may consider one or another. So I'm trying to summarize that, and of course, in terms of the projects that are under public for public use, that we need to go to the regulatory, the normal tendering processes. How much weight that sustainability aspect or sustainability document has in that project? So those are the key things that I'm trying to summarize from today's conversation. Is there something else that you would like to add? Which would be your advice for planners that are now, well, jumping in, more or less familiar with EPDs or not? What would be your advice for them to know more or to get to more advanced in this topic?
My advice is just to start doing LCA for all the projects, because the thing is, since this is not a requirement and it's not mandatory, it's just a voluntary thing, we are doing it because we have a commitment with sustainability. The ones who are doing it, we have a big commitment, and also because we need transparency, because we need clear information that is third verified to speak with our stakeholders. And this is a matter of time. So you cannot do, as I am a manufacturer, I cannot do an EPD in 1 month, because I need 1 year of data, I need to do the LC, I need to do all the process, and that takes time. So, for example, as Uponor, we have done that because we have the commitment, and also we need that information to be clear with stakeholders, and we need to be advanced to what is going to come. So as we are going to see that becoming mandatory, we need to be prepared. And just expecting that it's mandatory to start doing things, it's a wrong perspective, because then you are going to go fast and you're not going to do things well, and you're just going to do things to fulfill minimum requirements. We need to go above that. So my advice is to all the project managers, to all the people involved in the process of construction, to start today, because these are things that take time, and these are things that they are not good to be done in hurry up because you have a mandatory thing that it's coming, you know?
Better to prepare in time. So Judith, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom today with the audience of the Urbanista. And if I could maybe commit you, let's have another conversation like this later, maybe at the end of the year. Let's see how is the situation, how things have been changing from your perspective. That would be really nice to get to round out this conversation. And Urbanistas, thank you very much for tuning in today. And with this episode, we are actually wrapping up the season 1 as customary in the and we will have a summer break. But then after the summer holidays, we'll come back for season 2, and we have more things prepared for that. So thank you very much, and see you the next time.
Thank you for listening to the Urbanista podcast, a production of Uponor Infra, the leader in sustainable infrastructure solutions. If you found it interesting, why don't you share it with your colleagues? We all together can move our industry forward.